Hey, this is Greg Berger, and you are listening to the Geekcast Radio Network.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Cinema Geeks. I am one of your Cinema Geeks, OptimusSolo, and joining me for today's episode is MovieRevolt Dan. Hello, sir.
Hello.
Also joining us is HardCandiMandi.
Hey, howdy, hey.
Hey, howdy, hey. And the last of our foursome is Mr. FridleyCent.
I want to make a reference, but this movie doesn't leave me with enough to make a reference. Like, hi.
Excellent.
If you don't move from your chair, you can be Ben Kingsley.
There we go.
If you haven't been able to pick up from our excitement, we are delving back into our video game spotlight today for another review of another video game film. This time, we're looking at the 2005 German-American fantasy action horror film, Bloodrayne, directed by Uwe Boll and starring Kristanna Loken, Michael Madsen, Billy Zane, and a few other people, Meatloaf, Michelle Rodriguez, and Ben Kingsley, to name a couple, I guess, that people would recognize. So definitely a lot more notable names that we'll get into for this Uwe Boll film. But before we get to the actual film, Matt, what is your experience with Bloodrayne games?
All right. Long and storied. I played the original Bloodrayne for the PS2. I rented it back when video game rental stores were like a common place, and loved it. Just loved this game because it's like you're this vampire. You're running around Nazi Germany, just murdering Nazis. And then like they start scaling up and they start becoming Nazis because like your dad's like Hitler's top guy or something. Like, it's just crazy fun, very high paced action. I played the crap out of that first game, but I was so young I didn't have a job, I couldn't buy it. And so one of the first things I set out to do after I got employed was collect that game. Which is how I first saw the movie, is because I was searching for the game, and like, at this time, I was like, I want to get on a PC. PCs are better. Like, I've got a way better PC. I don't want to plug my PS2 back in, because I think we're done with that thing's lifestyle. And I found out that Bloodrayne 2 came for free with, like, any copy of the original movie. And so I bought the movie just to get the game, and got goaded into watching it by my friend, because he's like, he bought the movie, why don't we just watch the movie? And it's like, because I've heard all these terrible things. That was how I first saw the movie the first time. So I've played the first game and the second game. I haven't beat either of them, but I've played a lot of both. And beyond the game or the movies, I've actually bought a couple of the comics and read the comics too.
So you are definitely the authority so far on this subject. Amanda, did you play any of the Bloodrayne games back in the day?
No, and I have no idea why, because this seems like something I definitely want to do.
You want to do still?
Yeah, I want to, like, kill zombies and be a vampire and shit.
All right.
Or not zombies, I mean Nazis.
Nazis. It depends. We're talking about the game or the movie. Anyway, Dan, what's your experience with the Bloodrayne game franchise?
It's one of the games I've never played myself, but I had friends that played it, and I've observed them enjoying killing Nazis with a vampire. And I think the reason I didn't really play it is because I didn't have a PlayStation 2 at the time. And outside of that, really no reason. But yeah, this is as far as I go in my Bloodrayne repertoire.
It was also on the GameCube.
Also did not have a GameCube, but I had a Dreamcast and then
just
Xbox.
Rub it in. No.
Yeah, I'd rub it in with the Dreamcast. Yeah. I was one of those 8 people.
That's hilarious. Which I had envied at one point, because didn't they have a different version of the WWF Royal Rumble game? Anyways, that's going down a different path. But yeah, Sega had different characters that you could play for that game, so I always envied the 8 people that did have the Dreamcast. I am less knowledgeable than all of you guys, because I don't even remember the game being in existence. So I didn't play it. I didn't know anybody that played it. I have no clue, so I'm going to defer all of my game comments to Matt. and Dan as far as that one goes. So let's get into it a little bit as far as, Matt, if the actual film represents the game at all. You did mention that the game has vampires killing Nazis. The film, however, is set in 18th century Romania. How do you think it lines up with the game?
Well, in the game, your father Kagan is Hitler's top aide, and he dies in Romania in this movie. Oh, hey, by the way, we're going to spoil this movie. I'm just not even. I guess...
Remember, we got to remember the motto, Matt. The motto is we're watching these films so nobody else has to. So I think spoiling is a benefit.
Oh, man. Like, so if I had to say one thing that's been a through line with the Bloodrayne series, and I can't remember if this actually comes up in the game or not, but rape is like, hey, Kagan rapes Bloodrayne's mom. Like, seems to be like the one thing. Like, if you go into the comic book, if you just buy any one of the comic books, which I think is digital webbing, which is not a huge print, like, if you open the front, like, Bloodrayne is a half vampire because her mom was raped by a vampire, is how each and every comic opens up. And so that's the one through line, I guess, you get. And, like, you get it in all of the movies, including the third one where they show, like, they reshoot the scene without Ben Kingsley and show it, like, 6 times. So that's one thing it has in common with the games. But,
anything else?
I mean, she's a redheaded half vampire that fights with swords. Like, it's not beyond possible. It's like, this one, it's closer than whatever Mario was trying to do. Or Street Fighter, which had no fighting in any streets or anything like that. Like, it's, like, here's the thing. This one doesn't, like, this one half tries, which is more, like, I guess Doom kind of tries too. It's like Doom level of being close. Like, it's like, hey, you got some of the fixtures, but you really didn't get the spirit.
Right. That seems to be something that we haven't had. Have we had a movie that's done both? I think we've either like had like the heart of the game or some of the physical characteristics of the game. I don't know if we've had anybody that's really conquered both aspects. Dan, from the limited amount that you were able to observe the game or hear your friends talking about the game or whatever, did you feel like the film reminded you of the game?
I mean, she looks like the character, but like for what I can remember, I felt like the character, she was a little bit more badass, and like she felt in this, like she's kind of like a wimp in a way. Like I don't know, like she in the game, she would kick the crap out of everyone, and she would like have all these cool special moves, and this she just kind of just exists. So that was the one thing that seemed kind of weird to me. But again, I don't know if that's like in regarding to the story, because I don't remember the story whatsoever of the actual game.
All right, let's
or
get
really
in
this movie, to be honest.
I was gonna say, I thought you were talking about the movie. Let's get into the actual film then and break it down as much as we can, I guess. It's a 95-minute film. Obviously, like I said, it was released in 2005. It's the latest in the UA Bowl portion of the games. We've had House of the Dead and Alone in the Dark, and now we got Bloodrayne. Those are the only 3 so far that we've had for UA Bowl, right? Or am I missing one? I think those are the only 3. So we can kind of maybe think about them in relation to those 2 films. And obviously, the most recent film that we watched was Doom, so that would be the most recent one that we talked about that we could compare it to. But getting into Bloodrayne a little bit more film-wise, Dan, what did you think of the characters? Because we have a lot of bigger-name actors. We have a lot of notable individuals playing different characters. We talked about, Michelle Rodriguez, Ben Kingsley, Michael Madsen as Billy Zane. Did that help or hurt, especially compared to like Alone in the Dark and House of the Dead, where we have like random person 1 and random half celebrity 2, like not trying to diss. Who was it? Christian Slater?
And no. Stephen
Dorff. Or whatchamacallit's brother. I can't even remember his name now.
Clint Howard?
Clint Howard.
Yeah, his name.
So we've definitely like even amped it up a bit more. Did that help? Did it hurt? What did you think of the actors involved in this?
Wow. Yeah, when seeing these actors, all I can think of is like, how does he get these UA Pool get these actors to willingly be in these movies? Like, how is that even, like, Ben Kingsley is an Oscar-winning actor that's highly regarded, and what he puts himself through in this is just mind-boggling to me. The performances overall were, I think, worse than the other movies with, like, B-level actors. Michael Madsen is, like, sleeping half the time. Like, Michelle Rodriguez has the worst whatever accent she was going for ever in the history of the world. Like, I usually don't care about accents, but like why even try? Just don't even do it. It's just
the difference was she was legitimately taking this serious and trying to like make a name for herself through this, right? Like she's trying to like propel herself to bigger and better things, and compared to like Michael Madsen and
she did propel herself through all of the Fast and Furious movies.
Anywho,
but the actors overall were just it was just.
It's clearly nobody like this. I don't know how it happened either, because this is not like it's the first film like that the UA Bull's done. Like I could understand if it was the first one that he was doing and it's a video game film and someone's like, okay, yeah, I'll try this. Like we've had 2 of his films already. Like we've had 2 video game film adaptations from UA Bull that collectively, if you combine them, have I think a 5% on Rotten Tomatoes. That's if you add their percents together. So it is kind of questionable. And it's also very clear that, at least with Michael Madsen and Ben Kingsley, that they were either tricked into doing this or they thought it was going to be something else, because they are not even, like, they're only there physically. And I don't even think Ben Kingsley was there 100% physically. Like, Matt and I think we were debating this as we were watching. I'm convinced that Ben Kingsley was only on set for them to film for less than a half hour. Like, that's how much time I think he gave them to shoot his scenes, and I think that explains why he is always sitting in the chair.
And 20 minutes of that was costumes and makeup, so, yeah.
Yeah, but, like, he literally sits in that same position almost the entire film, and then I'm pretty sure they filmed him as he was walking out, and that's his scene where he's walking in and does the fight. Like, I don't understand Ben Kingsley at all in this film. Matt, I know you were kind of catching on that, too, as we were watching.
Oh, man, it was very much just like Ben Kingsley's like, I'm giving you one take, and it's going to be as monotone as I can get it. Like, it's so weird. Like, that said, I don't quite know how Movable, like, funds these. I know that there was, it was some weird tax loophole that's since been closed, and that's why he doesn't get funding for movies anymore. So maybe he just offered all these people a lot of money. I mean, like, hell, dude, if you're Meatloaf a day and some weird German guy calls you and says, like, I'm going to surround you with a bunch of naked ladies and give you $500,000. You want to be in my movie? Like, yeah, you take that. I don't know how he got Ben Kingsley.
I didn't even know he was in this. I'm like, wait. Like, I'm thinking, wow, the crazy actors have stopped. And suddenly Meatloaf comes on screen. And I'm like, what? Well,
I love
and
it.
at one point, Matt, what was the observation that you had of Ben Kingsley at one point? Doesn't he change? Like, at one point he doesn't have a wig on or something?
Oh, yeah, isn't he, like, super bald for just, like, 30 seconds of the film? Like, he's got this white powdered wig on that, like, everyone knows it's a wig, but you just assume that you're not supposed to in canon know it's a wig because, like, it's just a terrible Uwe Boll film. And then, like, for just one shot, he's not wearing the wig. They don't show him put it on. They don't show him taking it off. But just in one shot, he's got it. And it's like, I don't know. Is that supposed to be like a weird Easter egg? Was that a mess up on set? Or is that like a thing?
No, that was Ben Kingsley. That was Ben Kingsley saying, they're like, hey, you accidentally took that off for that take. And he's like, I don't care. He's like, we're not doing it again.
I told you one take, Uwe.
Amanda, you haven't spoken yet of the characters. Did you love any? Did you hate them? What did you think of some of these?
I really liked the cast, but I expected more of you guys. Michelle Rodriguez, you did not disappoint.
She's not disappointed?
No, she was great.
She was great.
She was so good.
She was great as she was morphing into scenes and out of scenes. And
she was so good.
It's like she's with this group, then she's not. Then she's with them, then she's not.
And you have no idea where she's going, where the bitch has been. She's just elusive. And just as elusive as her accent, because it comes and goes as much as she does. So yeah, in the weird random like sex scene in the jail cell between Rain and whatever that other dude's name is, that was weird. So the exchange between the characters was even awkward like throughout. So yeah, characters were. I liked the vampires. Like that was a crazy cool first vampire kill that they did. Like they just shot that dude in the fucking street. I think that the vampire transformations were pretty cool, so I'm going to say them as characters are my faves.
My favorite character was Michael Madsen there. I'm just going to go. Because what the hell was that? Like, that has to be one of the worst wigs ever worn in a movie of all time. Like, there's no way that's even remotely
have you seen
believable.
Joe Dirt? Okay, calm down.
That's intentional. Like, were they intentionally making this look like it didn't belong to this human being?
I was gonna say,
like,
in Joe Dirt, they reference it like, my mama said my skull won't fix, right? And like this, it's just like, yeah, I'm a shitty version of Calm Meanie, and I'm gonna stab this vampire in the streets. Also, my hair, what's up?
All right, let's shift away from characters. Let's get into some of the actual nitty gritty plot points, action, and all that. I know people are excited to talk about that.
No, the fighting was awful.
Starting with the very first fight, because that first attack by Rain. Let's make things blurry and fast paced so no one can see how bad this looks. That's the only thing I could think.
I kind of even want to start before that because, like, Amanda mentioned, like, how they stabbed that one vampire in the beginning, and, like, people just act like, oh, that's just a normal thing that happens, and, like, no one reacts to it. It's just people just move on with their day. But then, like, the very next scene is, like, people being amazed that a vampire exists because they're, like, burning with water, and I'm like, I don't – so the people are both amazed by vampires, but also kind of just – got used to them, so I was really confused immediately. Like, this makes no sense, and I don't know why I thought it would, but I thought that was kind of just.
You know what also didn't make sense was how fast she learned how to use those two swords that are obviously not your traditional way that you would hold any type of weapon, and she adapted to that almost instantaneously.
No, she still sucked at it though in the movie. It's not great. She looks super awkward.
I don't know if you, Dan, if you were able to, what version of this you were able to watch, because there is actually an unedited or uncut version of this, which adds.
I think they're all unedited.
Hey.
Zing. But the unedited cut or the director's cut or whatever the hell it's called, I guess has a whole ending sequence during the credits that is not available on the other versions of this film, and I'm not quite sure why they included it at all, because all it does is literally.
Wait.
Go ahead, Matt.
You're telling me the weird, like, eyeball recap horse riding scene isn't in every version of the movie?
I don't know if that is or not, but the whole ending with the slow motion on all the different action sequences is apparently not.
Wait.
And all that does is highlight how bad the visual effects are.
Oh,
like, they added a feature to this DVD to, in slow motion, show you how bad every visual effect action sequence was in the film. Like, Dan, did you see that in the credits, or did your version not have that, or did you just turn it off by that point?
I'm like, I didn't. Once the movie was done, I'm not sticking around. I didn't care if there's an end scene for the next movie. I'm good. I pieced that immediately.
But Dan, that should play a part in how you review this film. And anyway,
I thought that technically came before the credits, but after everything was over.
Well, then I need to ask Dan a question, though. I don't know if he saw the sequence or not. Were you able just in real time to pick up on all of the well choreographed and executed blood squirting that was going on in this film? The spraying,
like in the one battle where like they cut a guy in half and you can clearly see the fact that he's not really in half, and there's a dude like their legs are right there. Those are not. That's like trying to think of. Like some sport, like a hot shots type of thing, how bad it was. It was just like, you're not, those legs are so fake. Yeah, I saw all that. I did. And
what about when they were there hacking up the already dead body and they just keep hacking at it?
Yeah, and burning them alive and everything.
But there's other sequences where they were doing the cutting off or the shooting or something, and the blood would squirt, and you could actually see. Matt pointed this out too, and I could see it both in the regular time and when they did the slow motions. But all of the spraying of the CO2 cartridges or whatever they do to actually make the blood spray, like you could see them igniting, like letting off the air.
I did not notice
It's
that.
like the dudes are full of blood and also CO2. Like they got hit and like it's just like a puff of smoke and blood. It's oftentimes nowhere near the attack point or anything.
It's highlighted in this special feature that you can watch, and you can see the slow motion as each one ignites. But oh my goodness. Matt definitely set the tone for this as we were watching it, because we had a question within the first 10 seconds, and you basically informed us that nothing in this film is going to make sense, and everything that happens is because the film needs it to happen. And that was definitely true. Characters were definitely telling other characters things because the plot needed them to. It makes absolutely no sense why anybody does anything half of the time. Matt, you picked up on that, obviously, right away. Do you have an example or any of the worst offenders as far as that goes?
Oh, man. No, because nothing in this movie, sticks with you. I've seen the Bloodrayne movie a half dozen times at least. It's what started the bad movie night that really formed my early adult years. I show it to anyone and then I can, because I take a very perverse joy in watching it, because it literally, like you said, whatever it needs for this scene is what it needs, and then the next scene, nothing that happened in the previous scene matter. Characters hop around the world, literally Michelle Rodriguez's super white dad says at one point I know you know what my daughter is. And then he writes a letter to her, and he's like, I'll never tell you where my daughter is. Here's where my daughter's location is. And that's a scene, and it's not played for laughs. It's just the character just says words, and then Uwe puts it in the movie.
Yeah, he literally is I will never betray my daughter, and then in the very next scene he's betrayed his daughter.
It's Billy Zane, that's why.
Oh my goodness. Wasn't the Game of Thrones guy in here too? Wasn't there a Game of Thrones guy?
There's so many Game of Thrones guys.
I'm getting my
you
video.
really see that to any movie ever. That's the one with the Game of Thrones guy, right? Yeah.
No, you thought it was the Game of Thrones guy, but it wasn't.
Dan, anything else from a story standpoint that you want to point out, or anything else that made you confused or angry?
Well, the scene that they kind of stole from Indiana Jones, where she goes in that cave and she takes that heart of whatever thing. I don't get the trap that was there. After, it's not a big boulder. The room fills up with water, kind of, and but if she's just a normal person, it's not like the water's ankle deep, and the magical thing she got was supposed to make her, and it's not even just, it's water in general, which makes no sense, because how do you drink blood if you're if you can't have water? But that's, science. And
actually, that's a classic vampire thing.
But isn't it holy water and not just water?
No, it's moving water. Holy water is one thing, but moving water. A vampire traditionally can't even cross a river, even on a boat, because moving waters. Vampires are bogus, dude. Just all of the things they have are weird. But yeah, that's actually a vampire thing.
But Dracula came over on a boat, so it's the lore.
He was in a casket, though, wasn't he?
He was in a casket and some dirt.
Matt, didn't you explain that vampire lore has no rules? They don't stick to it?
Well, I mean,
they're just different for everything. Or every
vampires are very influenced by whatever culture. I gave a weird vampire lesson while watching this movie with Kevin and Amanda, because Chinese vampires have to count any not containerized rice. They say the way that you defeat a Chinese vampire is by pouring out rice and leading it away from the city, so that they have to count each grain as they leave the city, because they have to count all and again, so there's no consistency. Vampires are usually the super crazy impossible creatures that have really dumb weaknesses, like garlic, holy water, sunlight, crosses, not being able to enter your house unless you invite them. They're just full of crazy, insane weaknesses. to make them, I guess, a scary thing if you're in the woods, but not if you're in your house.
In this too, like, sometimes they were daywalkers and they could be out in the sun, like, it was clearly daylight, and other times, like, we gotta get out of the sun, and they would use sun to defeat some of these things. So they, even within this movie, it was inconsistent on what their weaknesses were.
So you're saying... Go ahead.
The sun thing's a really weird thing. I think it's like only direct sunlight in this version of vampires, but like either way, none of the vampires sleep. Like, well, Rain sleeps, right? Rain sleeps because she has to wake up from a nightmare to fuck that guy that one time. So we know that she sleeps. No one else sleeps in this movie. I don't even know if humans sleep in this movie. Because, yeah, like, Meatloaf is just hanging out in his sex grotto, and then, like, they shoot out the window and he dies. And so that's during the day. But it is, like, a weird situation where it's, like, the one vampire guy brings Rain to the sex grotto just on a horse in the day, and then they shoot the window, and then he dies.
Is it the fact that the person who was cast as Bloodrayne just got the role because they're the only one that was not intensely creeped out by all the scenes that you label just like, here's a random sex scene with no, it's even less more pointless than the one that's in Alone in the Dark. Somehow they're just now in love, and then she goes over and like kisses a woman for no really reason whatsoever, and then that goes nowhere. It's like it's like this movie solely exists to like satisfy his really kind of odd fan. It's like that was the one scene that was somewhat shot normal. It's like you put all the effort in that sequence, but all the action will just kind of just go as is, you know.
You know what's great is, again, I've seen this movie a number of times. The second or third time we had, or maybe even the first time, we had a moment of like, why is this scene happening? So the first time I ever listened to director's commentary was for the Bloodrayne sex scene, because I was so confused. And literally listening to Uwe Boll explain how women and urges work to, like, a female casting director or whatever. Like, he goes, this scene she's a woman and she has need. She not just vampire, but also woman. And, like, this other female, like, on the commentary is like, yeah. Okay. And it's just like so awkward, like oh no.
Even the explanation of the awkward scene is awkward. Nice.
Oh, makes it worse.
All right, well, let everybody think about what they want to say for final thoughts. But before we get there, I have the box office numbers for everybody here. So Bloodrayne just domestically made $2.4 million. Worldwide, you can bump that 2.4 up to 3.6 total. So $3.6 million worldwide. Budget, $25 million. So $25 million budget, worldwide gross of 3.6.
And 20 of that million was probably for Ben Kingsley. I'm just going to assume.
For his half hour.
He got paid by the second, yeah.
Yeah. It is according to Box Office Mojo, it's the 35th ranked video game film when it comes to the box office. That means for our purposes, out of the ones we cover, there are only two worse. So only two films that we're talking about in this series made less money than Bloodrayne, one of which we already talked about. Double Dragon made $0.1 million less than Bloodrayne. So Bloodrayne was 2.4 domestic, Double Dragon was 2.3, and we have yet to talk about the winner of the least box office money as far as the ones that we're covering. As far as the reception goes, remember we had House of the Dead at 4%, and we had Alone in the Dark at 1%. This one, Bloodrayne, will go back up to 4%. So 4%, just like House of the Dead. 2 fresh reviews out of 51. So a 4% for the critics, a 16% for the audience. Not good, according to some of the people involved. This is coming from Michael Madsen, called Bloodrayne an abomination, a horrifying, and preposterous movie. He did say he enjoyed working with Boll, though, which so did Billy Zane, so that's kind of odd. A lot of critics ridiculed Bull.
Because they didn't want to get punched in the face.
I guess they didn't want to get
Well,
challenged.
because
to
it
a
was probably the
boxing
easiest job in his life. It's like, he clearly had like all the food and beer he needed, and he put little effort in. He kind of showed up and said his 4 lines for that day, and I get why he's like, yeah, this is the easiest thing he's ever done. It's not like he's working with Tarantino that's actually gonna make him do something that's not just like show a tiny bit of emotion.
Exactly. And apparently it would have cost more than $25 million as far as his budget, but Bull actually hired actual prostitutes instead of actors for the scene with Meatloaf to save production costs. So
Classy.
That's why he hired them. Yeah.
Oh, man. Matt, you've seen the sequels?
Yeah, buddy.
Okay. So here we go. One note about the sequel. Now, you had mentioned that in the game, like they're actually fighting Nazis. Eventually, the sequels get to that, right?
Yeah, the third one.
But the person that was supposed to do it in the game has already been killed by then.
Yes.
Okay. They also changed actress. The person that plays Rain in the second and third film is different than the first one, and both sequels were also directed by Bull. Here's an interesting thing. One of the actors actually appeared in all 3 films, but played a different character in all 3 films. So, yeah. He played 3 completely different and having nothing to do with each other characters, but appeared in all 3 films. So there's that. Last note before I get you guys' final thoughts, though, did get a bunch of nominations for Raspberries, Golden Razzies, as Amanda likes to call them. It was nominated for Best Picture, or Worst Picture, Worst Director, Worst Supporting Actor, Worst Supporting Actress, and I'm missing one. I think actor or actress, but it got nominated for a whole bunch of Razzies. Put you guys.
Worst screen couple?
No, not worst screen couple. That was not one of them. It lost worst picture though to a film called Basic Instinct 2, the sequel to Basic Instinct. Did anybody know that existed? Anybody?
No.
I did not know that either. It lost for Worst Actress. Christina Loken lost to Sharon Stone from Basic Instinct 2. So Basic Instinct 2 racking up the Razzies on that one. Worst Supporting Actor. Ben Kingsley was nominated, but lost to M. Night Shyamalan in Lady in the Water.
I actually think that was his best role in his films.
Okay. Michelle Rodriguez was nominated for Worst Supporting Actress and lost to Carmen Electra from Date Movie and Scary Movie 4. And let's see, Worst Director, Uwe Boll, nominated for Worst Director, lost to M. Night Shyamalan for Lady in the Water. The screenplay also was nominated and lost to Basic Instinct 2. So that's kind of where things happen with that. So let's go around the table, get everybody's final thoughts and grades for Bloodrayne, starting with Miss HardCandiMandi. What do you think? Anything else you want to say, and what grade would you give Bloodrayne?
Some of the notes that we didn't cover that I have here. Big note here, Amazing Amanda is the badass with the swords originally. We didn't mention that, and I'm pretty sad that nobody brought that up, okay? I also have here these wigs, though. So it's not just Michael Madsen's wig. It was everybody's fucking wig in this, including Ben Kingsley's on and off again.
And Billy Zane.
Also, bitches love necklaces. That's what I have in my notes. So there's that. I was really upset with like the fighting in this. Like there was plenty of opportunity for this to be a super badass like fight movie. It's got a vampire fucking people up with arm swords, but instead we got Michael Madsen with a little arm crossbow and stuff. So. It was still fun to go through this. Like there was some kind of cool stuff in it. And I think it was more fun that we were all watching it as a group with Matt and Amy and Kevin and I, and like just kind of questioning out loud some things that were happening. So it was definitely fun as a group, but I think if it would have just been me, I would have zoned out.
What grade?
Man, I'll still give it a 4.
4? Is that better? Are you putting it ahead of Alone in the Dark and House of the Dead?
Yes.
All right, Matt, what do you think? Final thoughts on where would you place this one as far as ranking goes?
Oh, I have so much to talk about. We
Go
just
for it.
don't even have time. The second movie is about Billy the Kid, who's not a child gunslinger, or even just like a 20-year-old gunslinger. He's like a 200-year-old vampire who molests children, and that's why he's called the Kid.
That's weird and gross and awful.
Yeah, weird and gross and awful, terrible. With just incomprehensible scenes where, his big plan to defeat her is hey, if you come into my house, I've got an elaborate trap that's going to hang the children, but, you'll be standing a foot away from them, so you can actually just pull out any one of your swords and cut them all down from their nooses, but you won't for 5-10 minutes. Literally, she walks in the house, there's spring traps, she grabs the rope, and she's standing there holding the rope while he explains his whole plan. Other action scenes are happening in other places, and then she goes, oh, okay, I'm done, and then cuts them all down, and then fights him. It's really weird. Also, why make a cowboy western movie, in the vein of classic cowboy western movies that can't be at high noon at any point ever? That's ever. You've got one character who can be out in the sun in the whole movie. Or why not make that a plot point at any moment? Hey, we duel at high noon. How about high midnight, huh? I'm a vampire. Why not just reference it once? You're subvert the genre if you're not going to follow the genre. Don't just ignore it inside of itself. One of the major plot points of the first movie is that she gets this second eye that makes her immune to water, which, hey, guess what? In the first and I believe the second games, she's not immune to water, and the second game takes place in 2005, so explain that. But, at the end of Bloodrayne 1, the movie, she has a blue eye and a gray or green eye. In the second movie, the different actress had brown eyes, and they don't do anything about that. On the cover, she's got brown eyes, but in the third movie, again, same actress as the second movie, so she's got brown eyes, but on the cover, they Photoshop her eyes to be blue, but don't change it in the movie itself. And so she's just very clearly got these just dark brown eyes that don't make any sense to the character. But, okay, so the first movie is a silly bad where it's hey, if you're watching it by yourself, it's aggravating and terrible, but it's fun if you've got a group. I cannot express how much fun an Uwe Boll film is if you've got people to talk to, because it's just you just every 2 seconds you're looking did you see that? Am I experiencing this? Am I just making this up? Am I high? It's 4:20. What's going on? But the third one, the third Bloodrayne movie, is an almost competent, I don't want to say sci-fi, but kind of sci-fi vampire Nazi thriller movie. 90% of it's Clint Howard just being an amazing actor and being hilarious as this, super over-the-top German scientist. But,
What, Clint Howard again?
Clint Howard being 100% the main villain. I don't care what about the other Nazi vampire guy. The premise of the third movie is she bites a guy and then stabs him and misses his heart. And here's the thing: she at this point is a 200- or 300-year-old half vampire, which apparently half vampires are stronger than regular vampires in this world for whatever reason. Half vampire, who's collected all of these ancient relics and has had them for hundreds of years. So she's arguably the strongest person in the world. And so when she bites a guy and misses his heart so he doesn't die as a vampire and comes back, he's stronger than almost any vampire in the world. And then anyone he bites is slightly weaker than him. And so it becomes this thing of they've got to collect her blood because her blood can make stronger vampires than anyone else. And it really works in a strange way, and it actually makes a competent, decent film, which is a weird thing to say about Uwe Boll. It has also more sex that makes less sense than any other Uwe Boll film. I actually recommend watching, just watch the third one, skip the other two. It's kind of a fun film. It's still got its problems. And they've just completely thrown away, trying to be like the video games or looking like the characters. She has black hair in the third movie, and wears a pilot cap for most of it. I don't know why. She doesn't have the weird arm swords. She does have, just scimitars across her back, which she sometimes uses, and it's got all kinds of weird things. I don't know, man. There's a sex scene at the end where they've been captured by the Nazis, and, you know, it's that end of Act 2, all hope is lost, big thing before they regain hope and go to the climax. And it's just like, they're tied up in the back of a Nazi van, and then, like, they just have sex for no reason. They're not tied up anymore. And then, like, the van, like, stops and they jump out the back of it. And it's like, well, I mean, were they tied up? Was the van locked? Like, why were we transporting, why, one, or how are these Nazis transporting their prisoners? And two, like, how could they just get out of everything, including their clothes and the van? Like, and why would they do that in the middle of this situation that's supposed to be tense? But it's fun and hilarious. Honestly, if you're watching Bloodrayne with the group, I mean, 6 out of 10, it mostly tries, and it's more fun to watch than to not watch if you have people to talk to.
If you're watching it by yourself, what grade would you give it?
I would give it whatever I gave to House of the Dead. Watch that with
All
people
right.
too. Uwe Boll.
All right.
Hey, friends, don't let friends watch Uwe Boll moves alone.
Dan, has he convinced you to continue watching the Bloodrayne series?
Considering I watched this movie alone, no.
Where do you put this one?
I think this is worse than the movies that came before, mainly because this has like legitimate actors that give the worst. It's pathetic. So it's a 1 out of 10.
Ooh.
All right. So worse than House of the Dead and Alone in the Dark?
I would say yes, mainly because it's weird because it's almost more enjoyable to watch because of how bad it is compared to those. Like, Alone in the Dark was not even like bad, so bad it's good. This one to me was more so that. So if that makes any sense, this is a worse movie but more enjoyable to watch. If that.
I know, I agree with you 100% because I think it's like that's what makes it maybe a more fun movie to watch with a group, because it is so bad that you can like just constantly point out stuff, ridicule, laugh, etc., and wonder how anything like this was actually made. Whereas I didn't get that feeling from Alone in the Dark or House of the Dead or even Doom. I just thought those movies were just bad, and it wasn't so bad that they were good for me. So it's kind of a hard one to rate. Like, do you rate it on actually how bad it was, or because it was so bad that it was somewhat not excruciating to watch? Does it make it a little bit higher? This is where we've gotten to in the video game spotlight, where now we're comparing crap to crap, and intentions and reality and that type of stuff. But I mean, it's a bad movie, I guess, any way you slice it, but it can be a little bit more fun. So I'm going to give it like a 3 out of 10, I guess, 2, 3, somewhere in that range. So I mean, it's still bad. I think I would rather watch this than Alone in the Dark or House of the Dead, but that is not saying much. So that's about where we sit with Bloodrayne. If you agree or disagree with our thoughts on Bloodrayne, please go to the website www.geekcastradio.com and find the episode post and comment there. We'll try to respond there. We can also interact with you directly on Twitter. If you want to tweet the whole show and we can all interact, and that would be at Cinema Geekcast. If you want to have a specific question or comment for one of us individually, you can do that too. Amanda, how would somebody get into contact with you on Twitter?
At HardCandiMandi, eyes, no eyes.
Matt, how about you?
I'm at FridleyCent.
Dan?
I'm at MovieRevolt.
And I'm at OptimusSolo. You can also go to iTunes and leave us a review there, or go to the Facebook page and keep up to date with all things Geekcast related. Next time, when we go back to the video game spotlight, we're staying in 2006. Bloodrayne was our first 2006 film. We have 2 more to go. Our next one on the list would be none other than Silent Hill. Real quick, Amanda, excited or not about Silent Hill?
Very.
Dan?
It's not Uwe Boll, so I'm happy. So.
All right. Matt, are you willing to watch this one?
I mean, I'll watch anything, guys.
So Silent Hill is coming next. So until then, tune in next week for another chance to listen to the Cinema Geeks.